1000 Miglia Great 1000 Miles Rally is a racing video game developed and released by Kaneko in 1994. The game was inspired by the historical Miglia, an open-road endurance race held in Italy from 1927 to 1957. It featured vintage cars that competed across 1,000 miles of Italian roads, making it one of the most iconic and challenging races of its time. The game aimed to recreate the thrill and excitement of this legendary race, providing players with the chance to experience the atmosphere of classic motorsports. Release date and developers. The game was first released in 1994, during a time when arcade games were still very popular around the world. Kaneko, the developer, was a Japanese video game company known for producing several arcade titles in the late 80s and early 90s. They specialized in a wide variety of genres, from platformers to fighting games, but 1000 Miglia was one of their entries into the racing genre. The game was released for arcades and was a coin-operated machine that allowed players to experience racing in a nostalgic setting, focusing on the classic cars from the era of the real-life Miglia. Players would select their vehicle, each representing a vintage race car, and compete across various stages that represented different sections of the race. The stages were modeled after real locations along the Miglia route, showcasing picturesque towns and the beautiful Italian countryside. Inspiration behind the game. The primary inspiration for 1000 Miglia Great 1000 Miles Rally was the actual Miglia race, a famous endurance race that took place annually from 1927 to 1957. The Miglia was considered one of the most prestigious racing events of its time, attracting top drivers and automobile manufacturers. The race covered a challenging 1,000-mile route, starting in Brescia, Italy, and looping through various cities before returning to Brescia. The creators of the game were likely drawn to the romantic and adventurous aspects of the Miglia. This was a race that symbolized speed, engineering, and a touch of danger, as the roads were not purpose-built for racing, meaning drivers faced real risks as they sped through small towns, narrow roads, and countryside terrain. By the time the game was being developed in the 1990s, there was a growing nostalgia for vintage cars and classic races, which might have contributed to Kaneko's decision to recreate the Miglia in arcade form. The design of the game's stages and the inclusion of vintage cars are directly tied to this historical race, allowing players to experience a simulated version of the event. This sense of history, combined with the excitement of high-speed racing, gave the game its unique appeal. Gameplay mechanics. 1000 Miglia Great 1000 Miles Rally featured relatively simple but engaging mechanics. Players could choose from a selection of vintage cars, all modeled after real-life vehicles that participated in the original Miglia races. Each car had slightly different characteristics, affecting speed, handling, and acceleration, adding a layer of strategy to the game. The gameplay was straightforward. Players would race through different stages, aiming to finish first while avoiding obstacles and managing tight turns. The game had a checkpoint system, where players had to reach specific points before the timer ran out to continue progressing. Like many arcade games of the era, time extensions were given if players reached these checkpoints in time, adding to the pressure of quick decision-making. Visually, the game embraced a 2D racing perspective with detailed backgrounds and a clear representation of the vintage vehicles. The environments were colorful, with each stage representing different sections of the Italian countryside. The cars were rendered with attention to detail, making it easy for players to distinguish between them, even during fast-paced races. The sound design also complemented the action, with engine sounds and background music adding to the immersive racing atmosphere. Reception by gamers and arcade fans. 1000 Miglia Great 1000 Miles Rally received mixed but generally positive feedback from gamers, especially fans of racing games and arcade enthusiasts. At the time, racing games were already a popular genre, and many players were drawn to the nostalgic setting and unique theme of vintage racing. While many arcade racers focused on modern cars and futuristic settings, 1000 Miglia offered something different by allowing players to race classic cars. Players appreciated the challenging nature of the game, as well as the historical homage it paid to the Miglia race. The checkpoint system added an element of urgency, keeping the action fast-paced and engaging. However, like many arcade games of the era, it was also designed to be quite difficult, encouraging players to insert more coins to continue after losing. This difficulty could frustrate some players, but for others, it was part of the fun. The game didn't achieve the same level of mainstream success as some other racing titles of the time, like Daytona USA or Ridge Racer, but it did develop a loyal following among those who appreciated its retro theme and challenging gameplay. In Japan, it was more popular due to the local arcade culture, where games like this thrived. Legacy and influence. Though 1000 Miglia Great 1000 Miles Rally may not be as well known today, it left a mark on arcade gaming history as one of the few titles to celebrate vintage car racing. It was followed by a sequel, Great 1000 Miles Rally 2, released in 1995, which refined the gameplay and added new cars and stages. This sequel also stayed true to the historical theme, further expanding on the Miglia concept. The game has become something of a cult classic among arcade collectors and retro gaming enthusiasts, especially those who enjoy vintage racing games. While it never saw a home console release, the game has been emulated and preserved through various retro gaming platforms, allowing new generations of gamers to experience it.